Now, arpeggios are absolutely amazing, but starting out it can be quite challenging to know how to actually play and learn them, and more importantly, knowing how to find your comfort zone, identifying your challenge moments, and conquer them so you slowly and progressively can play bigger and more epic arpeggio patterns. Today we will talk about everything you need to know to really learn and master arpeggios, starting with the more basic knowledge and then slowly going to more advanced territory as well. Now, if we play the most basic chord we can think of, that would probably be the C major chord. And in many chords we play starting out, we have 3 unique notes. In this case, we have C, we have E, and we have G. And now the 3 notes within a chord can also be written as 1, 3, 5, but we will talk more on that later. Now, if we play all notes at once, we only play the shape of the chord. We don't really get any motion, we don't get any momentum. However, if we start with playing only the C note, and then maybe the E note, and then the G note, and we could even, if we want, repeat it back and forth, then we have this very, very beautiful motion that we can play on different chords to create a very, very beautiful pattern to the melodies we play, right? And that's basically the concept of arpeggios. We play a chord in a shape we want, and then we play a motion within. We can play them in any order, top, bottom, middle, bottom, top, and so forth. And we have arpeggios. Now, I think the bigger question here is how can we go from playing something like this to maybe something like this, very, very big, fast motions, right? And that's where I think we need to understand the 3 pillars of playing and learning arpeggios. Now, these are 3 concepts that are very, very important to be aware of, and also understanding how they can become too easy or too challenging. If you challenge yourself too much within any of these 3, it will be pretty much impossible to learn, and sometimes you might even go backwards in how you progress because you develop very, very bad practice habits. Now, these 3 pillars are understanding the shape of playing arpeggios, understanding the motion of playing arpeggios, and then also understanding the rhythm of playing arpeggios. When we play, when we don't play, especially with both hands. Alright, so we have the shape, we have the motion, and we have the rhythm. And now especially the first 2 pillars go very much hand in hand, because within the shape we play, we can play different motions to create an arpeggio. And the bigger the shape is, the harder the motion will be to play. The more challenging and faster the motion is, sometimes the harder it might be to play the shape. Now, if we play a regular C chord as we did before, here we have a shape, right? My hand is resting over 3 unique notes, C, E, and G. And now, as long as you play the unique notes within a chord, you create that shape. So we could take the middle E note, for example, and play it 1 octave higher. So we have something like this. Now we have a much bigger shape to play within, right? Which means that it will be a lot harder to play motions within. Unless you want to stretch your hand very, very, very much, you might even need to move your hand back and forth to play the notes within. This means that if I play a motion within this shape, C, G, E 1 octave higher, it will of course be a lot harder to play, because the distance between the notes within this shape is much harder. Now, as an example, and now if I would remove the E note here and maybe play C instead. Now it's a little bit more easy to play, right? Because this shape is a bit smaller, it's easier for my left hand to move within these notes. So now when we have a chord, we can double the notes as much as we want, and we create a space where we can play them in different motions within. The bigger this space is, the harder it will be to play the arpeggios, and the smaller the space is, the easier it will be to manage. Therefore, I will give you a few progressions that you can use to start very, very small and slowly extend the shape, extend the options you can play until you have a very, very, very big span of notes you can play motions within. Now, before we talk about the actual shapes, it is good to be aware of numbers. If you play a chord in its most basic form, the bottom note will be named 1, the middle note will be named 3, and the top note will be named 5. The bottom note is the root note, the heart of the chord, in this case C, as we play a C chord, right? And now the 3 creates the color of the chord. In this case we play C major. If I change only the 3, now we have C minor. So the 3 decides the feeling we perceive when we listen to the chord. And 5, which is very important especially when playing arpeggios, creates the fullness of the chord. If I remove the 5, we still have the heart of it, we have the color of it, but we don't have the nice full sound that 5 will provide. So 5 you can see more as a strengthening chord, strengthening the feeling of 1 and 3. Now the reason it's very good to think within numbers is because if I would play another chord, for example A major, now here in this case A would be 1, C sharp would be 3, and E would be 5. Therefore, if I want you to play a specific motion, maybe I want you to play 1, 5, 3, 5. Alright? 1, 5, 3, 5. I can just write these numbers here and you can play the motion on any chord you like. Even if I play something like F sharp major, here the bottom note is 1, then we have 3, and then we have 5. So here we can try to play the same pattern, 1, 5, 3, 5. So speaking in numbers is a universal language that you can use to play specific patterns on any chord you like. Alright, so if we go back to a C chord and we write down the numbers, we have 1, we have 3, and we have 5. And now just for fun, take these 3 numbers and see if you can find different combinations you can play them within. Maybe you play 3, 5, 1, 1, 1, 5, 5, 3. There are so many different ways you can play motions within this tiny shape here. So pause the video and try to play 1, 3, 5 in different orders and see how it feels. Now once you find a combination you like, for example 3, 5, 1, I want you to write it down and then go to a new chord. If you don't know which one, I can recommend going to A minor. Try to play the same numbers within the new chord. In this case, we have 3, 5, 1. Try to do this on a few chords, just to get used to how it works playing numbers. We can go to D major, 3, 5, 1, and so forth. Do it for a few times, just to get used to thinking in numbers, and then you're ready to get the shape progressions. Alright, perfect! Hope you had a blast playing around with numbers. Already, you've played the first progression, which I recommend playing arpeggios is, which is just taking the basic shape, 1, 3, 5, and try a few different combinations, so you get used to the thinking of playing arpeggios and playing different numbers. Now once they start to feel fairly comfortable, we can go to the next step. And that is that you start playing a chord in its most regular position like this, but then you will remove the third and you will double the 1 octave higher. So in this case, we play C, which means that we will play C one more time all the way up here in this case. Now this can create a little bit of tension in your left hand if you haven't played this motion before, so make sure to be really careful starting out, take frequent breaks, and make sure you are very relaxed when you play. And now we can use the same thinking here. In what combinations can we play these numbers? We can play 1, 5, 1, 5, 1, 1, 1, 5, 1, top to bottom, 1, 5, 5, 1. There are so many different ways of playing just this shape as well, right? And now once you find a combination you like, make sure to write it down and then test it out on a few chords. Now in my case, I really like the sound of playing 1, then 5, and then 1 again, so we basically play the full motion from bottom to top. If you repeat it back and forth, what a nice wavy motion we get, right? And now once it feels comfortable playing on a C chord, see if you can figure out how to play it on a new one. If we go back to A minor, which we played before, we have 1, 3, 5 in the most basic position. Here we know that we want to remove the third and double the 1, creating the 1, 5, 1 shape. And here it's very good to know that no matter where we play, if I play a F major chord, if I play a G major chord, if I play F sharp, we always have the same distance between the notes. So I can almost lock in this motion with my left hand, move my pinky finger to a new note, for example D, and then I'm playing the shape of a D chord. So let's say our chord progression would be C major, G major, A minor, F major. It's the same distance between each chord, right? I just lock in the shape and play them on my current chord progression. Now this is the reason that the first pillar, shape, is so important. Because if I go from one chord to another chord and I play completely wrong notes, I won't be able to play any pattern within. So we always want to make sure that we first can play the shape. We can play all the notes together, we are comfortable moving between chords. Then we can go to the second pillar, which is actually playing the pattern, 1, 5, 1. And our last chord in this case was F major, first playing the shape, getting used to the placement, then practicing the movement. Once the placement feels good, then I can only play the movement. And all of a sudden we have this beautiful arpeggio pattern over this chord progression, right? Beautiful. You want to get super comfortable playing the shape in isolation before you add any movements to it. Because if I play a movement, maybe I have a quite hard one as well, and then I go to another chord, there's a very high chance my fingers will be resting over the wrong notes. Being able to control your placement, control your shape, making sure all your fingers are resting over the right notes, will be the base pillar for everything you will play later on. And now once this shape starts to feel comfortable, we can slowly play bigger and bigger options. So now if we go back to the most basic way of playing a chord, another very nice way of creating a big beautiful shape is taking the third and moving it one octave above. And here you notice that you need to do a very big movement in your left hand in order to play it at once. So if you would practice this as a shape, you would first play the 1, then play 5 and 3. So now the bigger the shape you practice, the more you need to group the notes into different options. Now if you haven't played arpeggios before, this is quite tricky, but if you want, you can try for fun. Is there any combination you can play 1, 5, 3 on a C major chord? The best way starting out is always playing bottom to top, so maybe we can give that one a try. So we play 1, 5, 3. What a big motion, but how beautiful doesn't it sound, right? Here again, we can take these numbers and place it over a new chord. We can play it over A minor, F major, G major, C major, F sharp major, and so forth. This will create the shape of any major chord. And if we take the third and move it down just a tiny bit to the note just below it, we have the minor version, creating any minor chord we want. So we have G minor, A minor, C minor, and so forth. And here again, if I would practice a progression using this bigger shape, I would first practice being able to play 1 and 5, 3 together, just getting comfortable to the movement I need to perform. Then I will slowly practice, no matter what motion I have, just going back and forth on my chord progression, getting very comfortable, playing the minor or the major version of the chord, depending on the progression. And now once you feel slowly comfortable moving between just the shape, then I can slowly start to add different movements and motions within. And now once you start to learn more and more different combinations of shapes you can play, you can actually combine them, creating even more options. So previously we played 1, 5, 1. What if we take the top one here and add it as an option to this shape as well? Now all of a sudden we have quite a few options to choose from. We have the shape we previously played, but we also have this big shape we learned recently. What happens if we play them from bottom to top? Or if we play the previous shape from bottom to top, then the new shape from bottom to top. Beautiful, right? We can play them back and forth, creating this very nice driving motion. And here is the beauty. If I just move this to a new chord, now I'm playing G major, right? I'm playing F major. I'm playing E flat major. What a beautiful chord. F major, G major, and so forth. And here again, by moving the 3 just one up below, we have the minor version of the chord. And I can move this to any chord I want to play. Here I'm playing E minor. Here I'm playing C minor, and so forth. But you notice that the more I extend the shape by quite a big difference, it gets a lot more challenging and hard to play and comprehend. Therefore, I think it's very important to start with the most basic shape you can think of and really get comfortable understanding how it works, how you can play it, explore different patterns and motions you can play within, and really give yourself time before you give yourself any new options you can play chords within. And now once you finally add a new option, for example the 1-5-1 pattern, make sure to play it for a very long time before you extend the pattern even more and play bigger and bigger motions. Because the shape you play within can cause so much trouble if you extend it too fast before you are comfortable with the previous option. Alright, so now once you find your shape you can play within, we go to the second pillar here, which is the motion you play. And there are many different combinations I can play this free, but also many different speeds. I can play slowly, but I can also play very fast. And of course, this also makes a very big difference to how hard or easy the arpeggio pattern will be to play. Alright, so let's say we are in the most common time signature 4/4, which just means that when you listen to the music, you feel 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. Here we have quite a few options to choose from where to play the actual pattern. We know that we want to start with a very simple shape, so we can only choose between the basic 1, 3, 5, now starting out. Now just as we are starting out, let's make it as simple as we can possibly think and play them from bottom to top. So we play first 1, then we play 3, and then we play 5. Now we know in what order we want to play the pattern, but we also need to figure out when to actually play each note. So now if I would choose to play 1 on the first beat, 3 on the second beat, and 5 on the third beat, that would be a quite comfortable start to practice. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. If I would choose to play all 3 within the first 2 beats, it would be a lot more challenging. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and I need to play a lot faster now, right? Which makes it more challenging. Now something that you might not think about is that if I would choose to play on 1, 3 and 4, it will also get a lot more harder. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now if we play a note, for example on the 4th beat, just before we're about to transition to a new chord, we have a lot less time finding the 1 on the new chord, which means that we need to do a much quicker transition. 1, 2, 3, 4, and a quick transition to 1 on the new chord. This can be very tricky starting out. Therefore, I would recommend playing only on the first 3 beats starting out, so you can leave some room for your left hand to do the transition to the next chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, much more comfortable, because now I actually have time to move my hand to the next shape, so I later can play the pattern within. 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. So keep in mind that the closer you play numbers to the last beat, the less time you will have to transition to a new chord. And also the faster you play the notes within the beats, the harder it will be to play. So now practicing the starting shape, maybe you play only 1 on the first beat and then 5 on the third beat. Just getting used to playing notes in different timings. 1, 2, 3, 4. You make sure to repeat it quite a lot on the same chord before going to a new one. Then you slowly play 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and so forth. And once that feels really good, you add the 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. You rest, take your time, play the next chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. If needed, especially starting out, play the shape first. Make sure all the fingers are resting over the correct notes. Then you play the motion. Beautiful. And you know, once you start to feel comfortable, you can slowly play bigger and bigger and more challenging patterns. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so forth. Start out only playing on the beats, but when it feels comfortable, you can of course speed up a little bit and play even faster motions. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Progressively getting to patterns that kind of look like this, right? And it's when you reach a state like this, when you're very comfortable playing different motions on both the beats and the off beats within, that's when you can go and think, alright, I might be ready for a bigger shape. And now, as we talked about before, instead of playing 1, 3, 5, we can remove the 3 and double the 1 one more time instead, getting the 1, 5, 1 pattern. And here again, we can think what and when. What order do we want to play the notes within this shape, and when do we want to play them? As always, starting out bottom to top is a very good starting point. So here again, as we practice, maybe we play 1 on the first beat, 5 on the second beat, and then 1 again on the third beat. If we want to progress it even more, we remove the 5, only focusing on a very small part of the motion. We could even remove the top one if we want, playing something like this, and then slowly introducing the full pattern. It's very important that when we change the chord, we are very comfortable playing the shape before we add any movements. And once we get more and more comfortable, we can start transitioning to different chords and only playing the movement. We have this very nice motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And now, just as before, slowly we can progress the options, the amount of notes, how fast we play and so forth, to make it more and more challenging, just by a tiny bit as we get more comfortable. Maybe we take the 5 and add it on the last beat, so we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Once we get really comfortable, maybe we slowly start to play faster, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so forth. And we slowly play bigger and bigger patterns until we have a very nice full motion that maybe looks something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. We can even play a little bit longer if you want. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Beautiful! And the exact same concept here. Once you start to feel comfortable with the motion, we can extend the shape and make it more challenging. Here we are changing the top 1 to a top 3 instead. A very challenging version of that shape will look something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And now a more easy and more manageable version of that pattern would look something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. Very big difference in how easy it is to play, right? And here again, since we have a very big motion, we want to practice the shape first, but here we need to group the shape. So maybe we play only the bottom note, then the top 2 note, only getting comfortable playing the chord notes together before we add any patterns, especially the faster ones. Once it feels good, we can try the pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once we transition to a new chord, we maybe only play the bass note, we rest a bit, we prepare for the other notes we're about to play. And once it feels more and more comfortable playing on different chords, here again we can slowly progress the movement and patterns we choose to play. And once we start to get comfortable with the movement, we can also combine shapes we've been learning before. Here we both have 1-5-1 and also 1-5-3. So in this case, starting out, we can try playing them from bottom to top. 1, 2, 3, 4, slowly counting, as the speed you play of course also makes a very big difference. 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course, same concept here, you can slowly progress, making it more and more challenging. I will show you one of my favorite patterns here, which is quite hard, but it sounds amazing. And that one looks like this. So we play 1, 5, 1, 5, 3, 5, 1. Quite a big movement here. So if we want to practice bigger movements like this, we need to think about the first pillar first, which are the shapes. So here we start with playing the bass note, which we can see as one shape. Then we play 5 and 1, which we can also see as one shape. We play 5 and 3, which we can see as one shape. So now grouping the notes and being able to play them together before we add any pattern is so important. That's why I'm saying it 1,000 times, right? Because if we can group the notes, we can later add movements. If we can't group the notes, we can't add any movements to it. It will be a nightmare to practice. So here I first practice the shape until that feels good. Then I slowly progress to play the movement. 1, 5, 1, 5, 3, 5, 1. If we count the beat, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Beautiful. Slowly we can progress to different chords, right? See how it feels beautiful. And if we play a minor chord, the shape will be a tiny bit different, and the third will be just one step below. So here we have an A minor chord. Here we have an E minor chord. And so forth. And of course, knowing this concept, as you get comfortable, you can always make the shape bigger, you can always make the movement faster. The key is that you don't make the shape too big, you don't make the movement too hard, before you feel comfortable with the step just below it. And the harder the movement is, the easier shape you want to start out playing. The harder the shape is, the easier movement you want to start out playing. Alright, so now I think we should talk about the elephant in the room. Let's say you're practicing 1-5-1 and you have this starting pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sounds nice, sounds beautiful. But what happens when you add the right hand, which is now the third step, the rhythm, the hand independence? At least for me starting out, what happened was that I got nightmares. It was an absolute mess to play and figure out how to manage. What we need to realize here is that just as we progress on the shape pillar, just as we progress on the movement pillar, we also need to progress how we introduce the right hand. We can do that by either slowly introducing the right hand notes or slowly introducing the left hand notes. Now, for example, if I would practice the Forrest Gump theme, the hand independence can be quite tricky. So what we can do here is that we can start with just focusing on the rhythm and play the right hand only on the first beat. Alright, that feels pretty good, pretty nice. Then we can maybe take the right hand and play it on the off beat just afterwards as well. And now we need to do so very, very slowly. 1 and 2. 1 and 2 and 3. Alright, we can slowly progress the speed. 1 and 2 and 3. 1 and 2 and 3. Beautiful. Then we can continue to slowly add more right hand notes as we get comfortable with the previous step. The key here is that I slowly introduce them so I can focus on one problem at a time, because introducing the right hand is quite a lot problem in many scenarios. And all of a sudden I can play the rhythm. Beautiful, right? Then I need to think about what notes are we playing? We are kind of climbing upwards. Alright, let's play the same rhythm now. Beautiful! And all of a sudden, I can play the start of the theme. And of course, we could also reverse it. I start playing the theme with my right hand, only introducing the first part of the left hand. Once that feels good, I add the second part, and really focusing on the moment both hands play together. And then slowly I add the third part and so forth. Now the key here is to realize what is challenging. And most likely it's the hand independence, it's the different rhythm both hands play. Then you need to make it easier. You need to make it a lot easier and slowly make it harder as you get more comfortable. Generally, when we introduce the right hand, it's too big of a challenge gap. We are not comfortable playing the complete melody, therefore we need to make it easier if we want to practice the piano with a happy face, right? Because I know how challenging and frustrating it can be practicing something that's too hard. In many cases, you're most likely able to perform it, you just need to take the right steps and slowly go forward. But as always, keep in mind that the speed and the rhythm of the original song will make a massive difference to how easy or challenging it is. So always start with slower songs that have fewer movements in the melody, fewer movements within the chords, and then slowly play faster and faster songs as you get comfortable. So it's not only the rhythm, it's also the song you choose, which will make a massive difference. And knowing that, I would slowly practice just the left hand for the Forrest Gump theme, thinking about the different chords I will play, practicing the shape first if needed, just getting comfortable playing hands in isolation. I would slowly introducing parts of the right hand until I can play everything in context. And once that feels comfortable, as I learn new songs, I can slowly progress the movement and the shape. Maybe I later play something like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, nice. Much faster movement, right? And I make it bigger and bigger as I progress. And I experiment and find more and more combinations. Maybe I find a very cool downwards moving motion I can play, adding it to Forrest Gump. Sounds beautiful, right? And then I combine everything I've learned. And slowly I learn more and more motions, more and more patterns. Slowly I find my own way and own style of playing arpeggios. Keep in mind that patience is the key here. Never go too far outside your comfort zone. And always keep in mind that if you make one of the pillars harder, you might need to make another a little bit more easy until you get comfortable. And with that said, I hope you have a great understanding of how you can learn and play arpeggios. If you have any questions, just comment down below and I'm so happy to help.